Hey everyone! We are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content and it is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button right now as we proceed. The Toronto Blue Jays just got connected to one of the most controversial free agents available, and the fan base is absolutely losing their minds right now. We're talking about Nick Costanos, a player whose name alone is enough to send Blue Jays Twitter into complete meltdown mode. This isn't just a questionable fit from a baseball perspective. This is a move that would fundamentally contradict everything the Blue Jays have built their roster philosophy around for the last several years. And yet, here we are, with credible insiders mentioning Toronto as a potential landing spot while the team is still dealing with clubhouse drama from Jose Berrios and catastrophic injuries to key players. Are the Blue Jays seriously considering this? Is Ross Atkins actually entertaining the idea of bringing in a player with significant clubhouse baggage and defensive limitations when they're already navigating one of the most complicated spring trainings in recent memory? Let's break down this absolute chaos and figure out what on earth is happening in Blue Jays land right now. First, let's establish the facts because this story broke in the most casual way possible and immediately set the entire fan base on fire. Nick Costanos was just released by the Philadelphia Phillies yesterday. Now, that alone should tell you something because teams don't just release productive players for no reason, especially when they're still owed significant money. The Phillies clearly wanted him gone badly enough that they were willing to eat his contract just to get him out of the clubhouse. That's a massive red flag right there. But immediately after his release, Jon Heyman, one of the most connected baseball insiders in the business, dropped a tweet listing potential fits for Castellanos. And guess who was on that list? The Toronto Blue Jays, along with the Padres, Athletics, Rangers, and Reds. Now, to be completely fair, Heyman didn't report that the Blue Jays have expressed serious interest or made any kind of offer. He simply mentioned them as a potential fit based on roster construction and needs. But that was enough to send Blue Jays Twitter into absolute chaos. Fans immediately started debating whether this would be the worst signing in franchise history or a secretly brilliant move that nobody else is seeing. The arguments are flying. The takes are hot. And honestly, this is one of those situations where both sides kind of have a point, which makes it even more fascinating to discuss. Let's start with why Nick Costanos makes absolutely zero sense for the Toronto Blue Jays from a philosophical standpoint. The Blue Jays led all of Major League Baseball in contact rate last year at over 80%. That's their identity. That's what they value. They want players who put the ball in play, who don't strike out excessively, who grind out at bats and make pitchers work. Nick Costanos had a contact rate of 73% last season and his career average is 71%. That's a massive gap. That's not just a slight difference in approach. That's a fundamental mismatch with what the Blue Jays prioritize in their offensive philosophy. And then there's the defense. Or more accurately, the complete lack of defense. Nick Costanos provides zero defensive value. Actually, that's being generous. He provides negative defensive value. He's a liability in the outfield. He's slow. His routes are poor. His arm is below average. If you put him out there in left field at the Rogers Center, you're basically conceding that position defensively and hoping his bat can make up for it. For a Blue Jays team that prides itself on strong defensive fundamentals and versatility, bringing in Castellanos would be a complete contradiction of their roster-building philosophy. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is why we're even having this conversation. The Blue Jays have a massive hole in their outfield right now. Anthony Santander is going to be out for 5 to 6 months. That's not a minor injury. That's not a guy missing a few weeks. That's a cornerstone offensive piece completely unavailable for more than half the season. The Blue Jays were counting on Santander to provide power, to drive in runs, to be a middle-of-the-order threat. And now he's gone, sitting in the training room while the team scrambles to figure out how to replace his production. Nick Costanos, for all his flaws, can hit. That's undeniable. He's a two-time All-Star. He's been a finalist for MVP voting multiple times in his career. In 2023, he was legitimately very good, posting solid numbers and providing consistent offensive production. Yes, last year was rough. Yes, he's entering his age 34 season. Yes, There are legitimate concerns about whether he has anything left in the tank. But on paper, in a vacuum, if you squint really hard and ignore all the warning signs, you can kind of see the logic. The Blue Jays need power. Castellanos has hit 23 home runs. The Blue Jays need someone who can potentially replace Santander's offensive production. Castellanos has a track record of being a productive middle-of-the-order bat when things are going well. And here's the kicker. He's a veteran. He's been there before. He's played in big games and high-pressure situations. For a Blue Jays team that's trying to compete in the absolutely brutal American League East, having veterans who've been through the grind can theoretically be valuable. That's the argument you'd make if you're trying to convince yourself this makes sense. But then you dig deeper and oh boy, does this get messy fast. The clubhouse issues surrounding Castellanos in Philadelphia were not minor. Reports started flying about him not being a team player, about his candor not being appreciated by teammates and coaching staff. There were stories about him wanting to be in the lineup every single day regardless of what was best for the team's chances of winning. That's selfish. That's putting individual statistics ahead of team success. And for a Blue Jays clubhouse that's already dealing with Jose Berrios drama from last season, do you really want to introduce another potentially problematic personality into that environment? Let's talk about the Berrios situation for a second because it's directly relevant to whether bringing in Castellanos would be insane or not. Jose Berrios just addressed the media yesterday and confirmed what everyone suspected. He was frustrated about being on the injured list during the playoffs. He left the team during the World Series run and went back to Puerto Rico to be with his family. He's since apologized to his teammates and acknowledged he handled the situation poorly. The Blue Jays and Berrios have apparently moved past it, but that kind of drama doesn't just disappear overnight. There are still lingering questions about trust, about commitment, about whether Berrios is fully bought into what this team is trying to accomplish. Now imagine adding Nick Costanos to that mix. You'd have two players with recent clubhouse issues on the same roster. You'd be asking the coaching staff and veteran leaders like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to manage multiple personalities who've demonstrated they're willing to put their individual concerns ahead of team success. That's a recipe for disaster, especially in a season where the Blue Jays are already dealing with catastrophic injuries and need everyone pulling in the same direction. And yet, and this is what makes this conversation so fascinating, there's a part of me that can see Ross Atkins talking himself into this. The Blue Jays are desperate for offensive firepower. They've lost Santander for months. They've lost Bo Bichette's production. They're currently planning to platoon Nathan Lukes and David Schneider in left field, which is fine for depth but not exactly inspiring for a team with playoff aspirations. Castellanos, if he somehow rediscovers his 2023 form, could theoretically provide the kind of power surge that makes this offense dangerous again. The counter-argument from fans is completely understandable though. Why would you bring in a 34-year-old with clubhouse baggage and defensive limitations when you could just give opportunities to your younger players? David Schneider had a solid rookie season. Nathan Lukes proved he could contribute. Joey Loperfido has upside and deserves a chance to show what he can do with regular playing time. RJ Schreck is tearing through the minor leagues and could be ready for a shot sooner rather than later. Why not invest in your own players rather than bringing in someone else's problem? This is the fundamental tension at the heart of this debate. Do you prioritize proven veteran production even when it comes with significant risks and philosophical contradictions? Or do you stay true to your organizational values, give opportunities to your young players, and hope someone steps up to fill the void? There's no obvious right answer, which is why Blue Jays fans are so divided on this. Here's my take on the situation. The Blue Jays should absolutely not sign Nick Costanos. The defensive limitations alone should disqualify him from consideration. The clubhouse concerns should be a massive red flag, especially given what just happened with Berrios. And the complete mismatch with the team's offensive philosophy makes this feel like a desperation move rather than a strategic acquisition. The Blue Jays are better off giving Schneider, Lukes, and Loperfido legitimate opportunities to prove themselves and staying active in the trade market for a better fit if someone emerges. But I also understand why this conversation is happening. The injury to Santander has created a genuine crisis. The Blue Jays need offense, and there aren't a ton of great options available in mid-February. Castellanos is sitting there, available for probably a minimal financial commitment, and he does have a track record of hitting for power. If you're Ross Atkins and you're feeling pressure to do something, anything, to address the offensive holes, I can see how Castellanos might start to look appealing even with all the red flags. The good news is that right now this is just speculation. Jon Heyman mentioned the Blue Jays as a potential fit, but there's been no indication of serious interest or negotiations. This could be nothing more than agents floating names to media members to try to generate a market. The Blue Jays might look at Castellanos, immediately say no thanks, and move on to other options. We simply don't know yet. What we do know is that spring training is well underway and the Blue Jays have massive questions to answer. Jose Berrios is healthy and apparently refocused after his off-season drama. Shane Bieber is still dealing with forearm issues and won't be ready for opening day. The rotation suddenly looks a lot thinner than anyone expected. Berrios might end up being the third or fourth starter on this team, which means they absolutely need him to perform. The easy early schedule against Oakland and Colorado should help them find their rhythm, but they need to actually take advantage of those opportunities. And beyond Castellanos, the Blue Jays are still reportedly involved in the starting pitching market. Max Scherzer remains available and would make far more sense as a veteran addition who could provide leadership and innings without the baggage. There are other options out there if Ross Atkins is willing to be creative and aggressive. The bottom line is this. The Nick Costanos connection is fascinating to discuss, absolutely wild to consider, and probably not going to happen. But the fact that we're even having this conversation tells you everything you need to know about how desperate the Blue Jays are to find offensive production and how uncertain this roster construction really is right now. So here's what I need from you. Smash that like button if you think the Blue Jays should stay far away from Nick Castellanos. Drop a comment below telling me if you'd actually support this signing or if you think it would be an absolute disaster. And make sure you hit that subscribe button because spring training is heating up, roster decisions are coming fast, and you're not going to want to miss a single development as the Blue Jays try to navigate this absolute chaos. This season is going to be wild, and we're covering every insane twist and turn. Let's go!